Hello and welcome back to the Sports Sermon. I'm Dylan Staggy.
I'm Jason Gandhi.
I'm Zach Munson.
Yeah, we are here today with Zach Munson, a friend of ours, and he'll be a regular guest on our show throughout the summer, so you guys will see more of him. But today we are talking about the next NBA What's Next edition, this time the Sacramento Kings. So let's talk about what the Kings did last year. Jason, what do you have on that?
Yeah, last year they started off 4-6, and for a lot of Kings fans, it was kind of upsetting because the owner, I'm not even going to try to say his name because I know I'll butcher it, had been saying for the last 3 to 5 years when the Golden One Center opened, they were going to be a playoff team, and the new arena was going to be a new playoff team and all this, and then, as we know, the Kings were far from being a playoff team. As the season went on, DeMarcus Cousins had 16 technicals before the All-Star game, which is a record for getting the most technicals in that time. And you saw during the All-Star weekend, Cousins didn't play much. A lot of rumors were swirling, but everyone's like, no, he's not going anywhere. But then, at the end of the All-Star weekend, you see the blockbuster trade of DeMarcus Cousins and Omri Cassiope for Buddy Hield, Tyreek Evans, Langston Galloway, and a top 3 protected first-round pick. After that trade, the Kings went completely on the youth-focused movement, giving lots of minutes to Cauley Stein, Buddy Hield, Papagiannis, Malachi Richardson, who is Michael Bailey, one of the regulars on the show's favorite player, and Skal Labissiere. But with all of that young youth movement, the Kings finished 8-17 after the All-Star break. So not what the Kings were looking for. The front office is not good, but I do like Dave Yorger as their head coach. This is kind of a specialty of playing with, or of using some guys that aren't really big names, as we saw in Memphis when they had all those injuries, and making them successful. So I think after all of that last year talk, I think Yorger's the right guy as a coach, and really it's just going to be about getting that youth to develop.
All right, so let's move into the future. A lot of youth for the Kings. And 2 top 10 picks this draft, so the draft is going to be really important for the Kings. They have picks 5, 10, and 34. Zach, what do you think they should do?
Well, I think the ideal player that they can get is De'Aaron Fox out of Kentucky. By selecting Fox, they get the best two-way point guard in the draft. He's known for his great defense, which separates himself from Lonzo Ball. He's the speediest player in the draft, and someone who is a consistent three-point shot away from being a star in the NBA. He's a great transition point guard. He can find shooters in the wings, and a big knock on him is his shooting, but that's something that you can develop in the NBA. And he made 74% of his free throws, so it's not totally broken. So I feel like with his shot, he'll be a star in the NBA.
Yeah. So I just have 2 things to say about that. One, like how you mentioned the free throws, that 74%. Like it's been found that that's usually like a better comparison of how they'll shoot from the 3-point line. Is how they shot in free throws. So
that's
just
interesting. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, that's something like a lot of analysts will talk about. Is like you look at like their free throw percentage, and like not like they're gonna shoot 74% from 3, but like if it's a high free throw percentage, and they're gonna probably not have a hard time adjusting. Which I don't really know why it's that way, but that's just something like over the years tracking stats. But my question for you, Zach, is that do you think that Fox should still be there at 5? I know that a lot of people think it's like there's been rumor that the Kings love De'Aaron Fox. And so, like, I have him there at 5 if he's available. I think it's like they'll submit that pick very quickly. But I just don't know if Fox is going to be there. So, do you think they'll have to trade up to get him, or do you think he'll fall to 5?
Yeah, a lot of people are talking that they could give away their 5th and 10th pick to move up to possibly the Lakers pick at 2. But I just don't think it's worth it because like with those 2 picks, you're going to get 2 potential franchise players. And so I feel like keeping your picks would be okay. But De'Aaron Fox, there is a chance he won't be there. I think the Lakers will still go with Lonzo Ball. Then,
but you got the Suns and the Sixers
right.
who both need guards.
Or wings. I feel like even if they don't get De'Aaron Fox, Tatum and Josh Jackson will be fine, but they could move up.
I just think like the way I look at it, like the top 4 unfolding, I think it'll be Fultz 1, Ball 2, Jackson 3, and then the Suns go De'Aaron Fox at 4 just because he's the best player available. So that's why I have the Kings taking Jason Tatum. I think he's actually my 3rd favorite player in the draft. Like he's on my big board. He's number 3. But we'll get into that once the finals are over, having our big boards come out. But I like Tatum. I think he's going to be someone you can build the franchise around for sure. So yeah, at the 5 pick, I like Tatum. Dylan, who you got at 5?
Well, for the Kings, I think they just got to take the best player available. They really don't have a lot on their roster outside of Buddy Hield to really build around a few young big guys. But the top 6 in this draft is not all about big guys, and I think the top 6 is really where the talent drops off. So I think you pick the best available out of Fultz, Ball, Jackson, Fox, Tatum, or Monk. And so I think for the Kings, obviously they're going to prefer Deere and Fox, but if Tatum or Monk falls to them at 5, I don't think the Kings are complaining.
I mean, I got this is just a question for you. Do you think they go Monk over Tatum? I think Monk's so similar to Buddy Hield. I'd be worried to take another guy similar to that.
Yeah, I think Tatum obviously over Monk, but if it does
him
fall,
or Fox will be there at 5. I mean, assuming it's not any blockbuster George Papagiannis falling in there like last year. Like, assuming it goes about the same, it'll be Tatum or Fox that go there. Do you think Monk's really a possibility to go 5 instead of one of those guys?
No, but I think you wouldn't complain if somehow the Monk and Jackson were there. I kind of like Monk over Jackson for the Kings, maybe just to build around some more shooting. And you see the NBA today, you need some shooters. Like the Warriors have 4 solid shooters in their starting lineup, and you need shooters these days. So I like Monk over Jackson. I think you can't really build around Jackson too much. Good defensive player, but not ever being able to be relied on the offensive side.
Do you move Monk to the 3 or Hield to the 3 or one of them to the 1? Like, how would you play them both? Or just have one come off the bench?
I think maybe Monk at 1 or just kind of rotate their minutes. Maybe start them all, but like later rotate it so it's not really Hield and Monk playing at the same time because they are similar.
Okay. Zach, what do you got at 10?
At 10, as we know, they do have a lot of young bigs. However, when it gets to 10, I feel like you got to take the best player available. And I feel like when it gets to Lauri Markkanen, that would be a great pick because we all know he's a great shooter out of Arizona. His 3-point shot was great. And so I feel like if you're not going to go with Markkanen, you can go with Zach Collins for another big. He does need work, but he did show flashes at Gonzaga and show some promise. And he will be an immediate impact as a rim protector and a skilled scorer in the post. And I feel like if he can develop his 3-point shot, he'd be a great asset. And at this point, Collins and Markkanen will probably be the 2 best players on the board. Yeah. However, if they don't want to go with those 2 bigs, they could reach for OG Anunoby, who can guard 4 positions. And again, with a jump shot, he'd be a great player in the NBA.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know if Markkanen's going to fall all the way to 10. So I looked at someone. I think Dennis Smith Jr.'s got a legitimate possibility to fall to 10 because I mean, there's been a lot of talk that the Mavs love Ntilikina from France. So because of how much the Mavs love him, I think Monk goes 8 to the Knicks. I mean, obviously that's like going to the top 10, but I think Dennis Smith's a real possibility at 10. So then I think if they come out with Dennis Smith Jr. and Jason Tatum at those 5 and 10 picks, if I'm the Kings front office, I'm very excited. But if he's gone, then you go look at Ntilikina. If somehow they're both gone, then I think someone like Jonathan Isaac or Harry Giles would be a place to look there.
See, with the pairing of Tatum with Dennis Smith, like that's exactly why I would not trade both those picks for the second pick.
Yeah.
Because you can get 2 potential stars instead of just 1.
I mean, but at the same time, like me personally, I think Lonzo will be a superstar. Like he is the best.
I agree with that.
So I think if you're going to get a superstar or 2 good players, I would take the superstar just because, I mean, that just comes down to personal, like, opinion or, like, really what you're building your team around. But I can see the argument for sure because, like, the Kings they're not only missing 1 piece. Like, I think the Lakers, like, not that they're going to go to the playoffs or anything, but they're not missing 3-4 pieces. They've got a young guard, they've got a young 3, and they've got a young center. They really only are 1-2 pieces away. Where the Kings, they've only got Buddy Hield and a lot of big guys. So that's why
they need young talent.
Yeah, I agree. I think they shouldn't trade it, but I think they might.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that trade a lot more later, that potential trade, and our trade talks. But for my number 10, I think I agree with Zach and Lauri Markkanen if he's there, but it really depends on what they do with their number 5 pick, what they do with number 10. If they take a point guard such as Deere and Fox, you got to go with maybe Jonathan Isaac if he falls or Markkanen. But if they don't take a point guard and take Jason Tatum, guys like Dennis Smith or Frank Ntilikina are going to be what you want. The Kings need a point guard, and at number 10, if they take Tatum or somebody else that's not a point guard, I think you got to go with a point guard there.
What do you guys think about Jonathan Isaac? I don't know. I've seen him all the way up to 6. He's so
I've seen him
raw.
at 4.
You've seen him at 4? Yeah, he is so raw.
Yeah, definitely a guy that you're taking a risk on. I mean, shows potential, but
Like, I would take Giles over him. I feel like if you're going to go with a boom or bust guy, I would
not.
Because of the injuries?
Jonathan Isaac is tremendously athletic, and he's a great defender. He will immediately be a great defender, and I think he can improve his offensive game.
I just feel like he's so raw. And if I'm going to take a risk on somebody, I mean, we saw Giles before his injury. He was unbelievable.
Harry Giles, you don't know about how he's going to get his knees
Yeah,
back.
that's the thing. It's just his injuries.
Yeah.
All right, so at pick 34, I don't think you trade it. I mean, I know we've talked about some teams, like they definitely should trade it and all that, but I don't think it's worth trading because you need young guys like we just talked about. So I think, like Dylan said with the other picks, you go best player available, and I think that's somebody like Kyle Kuzma, out of Utah, Caleb Swanigan from Purdue, or DJ Wilson from Michigan.
I love
really,
DJ Wilson.
Yeah, really any of those guys. Like I've said a lot on the podcast, once you get outside the top 25, it all comes down to certain teams ranking their prospects in a certain order. Like, these 5 teams might have this guy higher, so it really comes down to if one of your guys falls, that's who you get, and it's hard to really judge who the Kings have on their board. But I like somebody like Swanigan, Wilson, Kuzma, Thomas Bryant, really any of those 4 or 5, even can stretch down to the 3 options that can shoot, but also give you some depth, big spot.
yeah, you mentioned both of my guys that I like at 34 for the Kings, Thomas Bryant and Caleb Swanigan. I think the Kings have a lot of young, big guys, but none of them can step out and shoot the ball, something that Bryant and Swanigan can both do. I like both of those guys at 34 for the Kings.
Yeah, I really do think that the Kings are in a pretty good spot after the draft, getting that 5, 10, and 34, and that Boogie trade does not look that bad. You got rid of a head case, and now I've got young talent to develop around. Like, I think if you really start to trust the young guys, watching young guys develop is a fun thing to do. I know as a Lakers fan it sounds dumb, but I have enjoyed watching D'Lo, Brandon Ingram, Jordan Clarkson, all those guys develop, and I think the Kings are just now starting that type of process where you're going to get a lot of young guys and I just got to play together.
Yeah, I mean, the Kings, if they play their cards right, could get a few good young pieces at those draft spots and are in a good spot for the future. Again, if they play their cards right and get some solid prospects.
But with their front office, you don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Their front
they
took George's Papagiannis after trading up to 12 or something.
Yeah, Papagiannis. I mean, we'll see with him. He did show a little bit of flashes, but, not too much not to justify a lottery pick.
Yeah. All right, so let's go into free agents. I mean, there's a lot of different opinions on free agents. Some people say swing big because you're just a few pieces away. Some people say stay young. So let's go, Zach. What do you think about free agents?
So I think they got to stay young. They shouldn't go for a veteran or like someone that will cost a lot of money. They need to have lower end gambles that will conserve cap space for 2018. Some options will be Michael Carter Williams. He's only 25 years old. He had a great rookie of the year, but he's been disappointing since then. I mean, he's long and he's a good defender. I mean, then you got Terrence Jones. He's also 25. He could be a stretch 4, and he could be an okay 3-point shooter. But to be honest, with these picks, you just got to go with players that if they bust, then it's great. But if they don't, it's not a big deal. You can let go of them.
Yeah, that's the exact same way I went with mine. We've talked about that on a lot of the teams we've done with the Nets, the Knicks, like different teams like that where it's kind of they're all in the same boat. So yeah, I say the same thing I've been saying a lot. Young guys with potential. I didn't have Michael Carter Williams, but I think that's a great pickup, especially if it's something where Dennis Smith and Ntilikina is gone, so you can go Tatum and Isaac and then get MCW, your point guard. So I like that pick that you just had, Munson. But I also put people like Tim Hardaway Jr., Shabazz Napier, Dwayne Dedman, and the guy I've talked about almost every podcast, Tyler Ennis. All these guys that I think really you said it perfectly. If they bust, okay, I mean, you had them for 2 years, but you didn't draft them. But if they somehow show those flashes that they had in college, then you just got to steal in free agency, and now you've got them to show how much you believed in them, and blah, 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 blah. So basically, I think you, like Munson, and I think we're on the same page, you go with young guys that might have that potential that they once showed.
Yeah, definitely not going to be trying to swing big for the Kings because if they do, they're going to have to overpay because who the heck wants to go to Sacramento to play? You guys didn't really mention Ben McLemore and Darren Collison. I do think that the Kings should re-sign both of those guys.
Both of them?
Yeah, McLemore not going to make a ton of money.
And it depends how much they need. Like, I think Collison will get paid because he's a solid backup point guard.
That's true.
Yeah, I again, it depends on how much he gets paid. Like, not obviously worth a $15-20 million contract.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay either double digits. Millions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you can bring Collison back, I think he can help bring along a young point guard that they bring in through the draft. But also a couple guys just for some locker room presence and, again, hoping bring along the young guys, possibly Andre Iguodala or J.J. Redick. Obviously, they're going to be a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, that's a lot. But, I mean, you're going to have the room if you let these guys go. See, I don't mind that. Especially if Rudy Gay, that's $18 million right there or something like that.
Yeah, we'll see what the Kings do with free agency, but definitely, like we've talked about over and over again with these young rebuilding teams, young guys with potential and locker room presence to help bring along the young guys. But let's move into some trade talk, some trade rumors for the Kings. Jason, what is your trade that makes sense for the Sacramento Kings?
All right, I've got two. One breaks my heart a little bit as a Laker fan because I have the Lakers trading their second pick for the 5th and the 10th pick. I don't know, it doesn't really make sense for either team, but at the same time, if the Kings are that much in love with De'Aaron Fox, which rumors are swirling right now, if they love Fox that much, then I think that's definitely a trade you make, but I don't know, as a Laker fan, I want Lonzo, but we'll get into that on the Lakers preview. My other trade, if they decide not to do that, it's kind of an interesting one. It's Jahlil Okafor and a 2019 second rounder for Aaron Aflalo and Malachi Richardson. I know it sounds kind of dumb because we know about how many bigs the Kings have, but I think that's just like a step in the right direction of getting a big guy that you can actually count on instead of Papagiannis, Willie Cauley-Stein, all these guys that really haven't done much for them. So I think you get Okafor, you shed Aflalo's contract, and you get rid of Malachi Richardson, so that's why the Sixers would want to do it, is because he's got that shooting ability that Michael and a lot of other people like from Malachi.
Personally, I don't really like Jahlil Okafor because he's more of a post player, and in today's NBA of stretch four bigs, you need some shooting with your fours, even fives.
I think you can play the 5 though. I mean, just be like a dominant post man.
Yeah,
you can play Tristan Thompson role almost.
And then with your first pick about where the Kings give up their 5th and 10th picks for the second pick, personally, I don't really like that, but if you do want to do that, they could use their cap space to take on a bad contract and acquire another pick. For instance, from the Portland Trailblazers, they could grab one of their first three first-rounders and Evan Turner for Aaron Aflalo's contract. So that could be an option you could do with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a smart trade if I'm the Kings, just because then you get that second pick back. But, I mean, the reason that it's so hard to judge, especially in the NBA draft, because once you get out of those like top 10 that everybody ranks about the same, it really comes down to who you like in the front office. Like, I know like the Lakers, they're very high on Dennis Smith Jr., where even like in that lottery pick where some other teams might see Ntilikina as their guy. Like, it's so hard because it just goes team by team basis on who you prefer. So if they find someone at 15, like say TJ Leaf, they love him working out, or Harry Giles Falls, something like that.
Nobi.
Yeah, OG, someone that they've worked out and they go, hey, we want to watch that guy. That's where I think that trade makes sense for sure. Getting Portland's one of their first 3 first-rounders. They have 15 and a lot of ones in the 20s. So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of teams are going to be trying to trade up for those Portland picks as Portland's trying to shed salary, a lot of big, bad contracts on the Blazers, and a lot of rebuilding teams that might like a guy up in the teens or the 20s. So mine also has to do with the Trailblazers. I say Myers Leonard and number 26 for a 2019 second rounder.
What's Leonard's contract look like?
I think it's $9 or $10 million a year, and he's still pretty solid for that contract. So I like the Kings to bring him in. Obviously, getting overpaid, he's not worth $9 or $10 million.
I think you've got to shed Kufis. Then you've got to you've either got to cut him and take that loss and spread it out over the next 5 years, or get a trade for him, because you cannot have that many expensive bigs. I mean, I like the trade. I think it's a nice fit. You just have to get rid of Kufis.
Yeah.
You can pay $8 million. You can't pay 2 backup bigs $18 million. You just can't.
Yeah, I mean, even getting rid of Kufis anyway, even if they don't do this trade, really makes sense because a lot of young big guys that they need to give minutes so they can develop, and Kufis kind of
I don't even know, did he play that much? Did Kufis play? And he, like, Especially towards the end of the year, it was a lot of the young guys.
I don't think he played a ton, but just any minutes he has are taken away from the young guys' development.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a definite must. You gotta get rid of him. It says that he played 20 minutes a game last year, so that's a lot.
20 minutes that...
If you don't, you can't give him more than
20
10.
minutes that Scott Labissiere could use to develop.
Yeah, I don't understand why Labissiere, Cauley Stein, all them were not playing the beginning of the season. Until Boogie got traded, it was almost like we're going to, make the playoffs. I don't understand why that was ever a need. You've got to develop this guy you just drafted. Anyway, let's go into our headline for the upcoming season. Do you want me to take it, or does someone want to go?
I'll say mine first. I think for the Kings, my headline's got to be push through the turmoil, obviously with the front office, making some moves, some questionable moves. Could have got more for DeMarcus Cousins. We'll see how that trade ends up in the future based on these draft picks this year, but just some turmoil in the roster. Through the front office, the Kings got to push through it and have a successful rebuild.
I like what you said. You just got to forget what happened, all your bad decisions you made, just push forward. My headline is Kings try to escape the Cousins era. Obviously, Cousins is a franchise player, but he obviously was not working. He's a locker room problem, and so you just gotta push through. And use your young talent to develop a team for the future. And it may be rough for the first couple of years, but you just gotta keep on acquiring draft picks and developing your young players.
Yeah, mine is a little bit of a play on words here. Find a buddy to play on, buddy. Or play with, buddy. Sorry. I think you need to get someone to team up with Buddy Hield. According to their front office, he's the next Steph Curry. So you've got to get someone to team up with him. I think that's what you're going to do through the draft this year. If you can get Jason Tatum and Dennis Smith, like I said, you're sitting very pretty with Tatum, Smith, and Hield to lead your franchise in the rebuild process.
Yeah, Buddy, we'll have to see how he plays out. I don't think he's any Steph Curry by any means, but he's the brightest spot in the Kings roster right now, so they got to find something to go with him.
Yeah, speaking of how players from last year's draft are going to pan out, that is our top 5 for this episode. We're going to do the top 5 players that we think from last year's draft class will develop. So, at number 5, Zach, who you got?
At number 5, I have Jamal Murray. He averaged about 10 points a game, 2 assists, 2.5 rebounds. He did shoot 88% from the free throw line, and he was known at Kentucky for his stellar three-point shot. However, this year only shot 33% from 3, but I think that'll improve. This year he helped the Nuggets contend for a playoff spot, and he showed a lot of promise.
Yeah, he played really well in the Rising Stars Challenge, too. He started to shoot the ball like we saw at Kentucky. At my number 5, I got Thon Maker. Not surely how old he is still. I know that was a big question mark last year. But regardless of his age, I thought he showed flashes when he got playing time. He is just such a large human. He's just long and big, and I like Thon Maker to develop, and if the Bucks give him the right potential, think about a Maker, Giannis, Jabari Parker in a few years. That's a scary team to play.
Yeah, plus Chris Middleton and Malcolm Brogdon.
Brogdon.
The Bucks are going to be a team to watch out for in the East in the future. For my number 5, I'm going to go with one of Jason's favorite guys, Ivica Zubac.
Ivica Zubac.
Yeah.
You got it almost.
Whatever. Close enough. He had a really solid rookie season, especially for being picked in the second round. Showed some flashes that he could be the Lakers' future center. And overall, a solid rookie season for him. We'll see how he pans out in the future.
Yeah, he's my 4. I love me some Zubats. All the nicknames you hear, Zublaka, Ifrita Zublaka, all these things. It's all over the place.
I don't think it's not all over.
It is. I'm telling you. Check out the Lakers Twitter. Larry Nance gives him a new one every day. Larry's talking about, Zubaka for, Chewbacca. I don't know. Larry Nance and him have some weird relationship. But I love me some Zubats. He got a lot of minutes those last 10 games before he went down with a season-ending injury within the last 5 games. But loved Zubac. He really showed some nice touch at the basket. And I heard something a few days ago that he's been working with Kareem on that hook shot. So I'm telling you, Zubac, if he gets a little bigger along with Ingram, the Lakers might finally be out of the lottery. I'm just saying, Zubac and Ingram are going to lead the way.
Not next year.
Not next year. I think we'll be out of the lottery next year, but we'll see.
At number 4, I got Malcolm Brogdon. Let's face it, he had a great rookie season. He'll probably win Rookie of the Year.
He should. I
He
think
should.
So. Yeah.
He was the only rookie that was on a playoff team that his dependability was a necessity rather than a preference. Like, they really needed Malcolm Brogdon. He led the rookies in the rookie totals in the top 2 or 3 in almost every stat. He could basically do it all. And to getting him in the second round, that was a steal coming out of Virginia. That's my number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, my number 4 is going to be Jamal Murray. Zach talked about it earlier. Great pick. Like Jason said, showed flashes in the Rising Stars Challenge and could be a big piece in the future of the Denver Nuggets.
At my number 3, I've got who you just talked about, Malcolm Brogdon. Very efficient when he got his minutes and really showed that he could be the future of the Bucks, like you mentioned earlier when I talked about Thon Maker. So far I've got 2 Bucks in my top 5. Like we said, the Bucks are on the positive slope for success.
All right, for number 3, I have Jaylen Brown. At 3, number 3 overall in the draft. He played a good quality minutes on the Celtics. He was a great defender, guard 4 positions. He talked a lot of crap to LeBron James, which showed his confidence, which is good. But
I mean, I don't know if his play can really back that up
right
now.
Saying he's just another regular guy, you need to
love it.
You need to relax.
I'm not a big fan of Jaylen Brown personally.
Yeah.
He can't shoot the ball worth crap. I'm just not a big fan of Jaylen Brown. I think the Celtics should have traded down or picked somebody else at the number 3 spot last year. But for my number 3, I'm going to go with Jason's Malcolm Brogdon, efficient and super efficient rookie year, is going to grow up with this Bucks core and be a major force in the East.
All right, at my number 2, I have a feeling I'm going to hear a lot about this one. I've got Ben Simmons because he hasn't played yet. We haven't seen. I know we hear a lot about he's the next Magic LeBron combo. I get it. If he had played this year, he'd be my number 1. But Ben Simmons is my number 2 because he's yet to step on the floor in a Sixers uniform.
At number 2, I got Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, you do.
Out of Duke. He had a chance to play through all of his mistakes and to grow. I think he'll be an all-star every year. I think he'll be a great player, even a franchise player. I really like Brandon Ingram. If he can get a little bigger, he's a little skinny right now, but if he can get a little bigger, he'll be great.
Yeah, I also have Brandon Ingram at number 2. Another big piece for the Lakers in the future as they continue their development. Like Zach said, he's got to get bigger, and if he shoots the rock a little bit better, get some more skill to his game, he could definitely be an all-star in the future.
All right, you guys just talked about my number 1. Maybe a little Laker bias, I'll admit it. I had to go Brandon Ingram. I just think the way he played this year, the first half really seemed to struggle to get his shot down. But when you listen to Luke Walton, he said he'd hit like 12 in a row at practice from 3. So I was never really worried about him. Second half, he really showed what he could do, similar to what D'Angelo Russell did his rookie year. That second half, they seemed to start getting it under their belt. And I thought Ingram played a spectacular last month of the season. I feel like we almost saw a poster from him every night. Maybe it's just Lakers Twitter that put him out there. But every night they'd play, there was another highlight dunk. And his athleticism is just one that is unbelievable in the NBA. And so if he can just get a little bit bigger and be able to drive more effectively, I think Brandon Ingram will be a scary player in the NBA, already drawing Kevin Durant comparisons.
So at number 1, all you Sixers fans, trust in the process, I got Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons can really honestly do everything. It looks like he'll play the guard position this year for the Sixers. Everyone is hoping that they could see a little bit of Ben Simmons this year, but set back by injury.
He's not going to play in Summer League. I did see that him and Embiid are sitting out of the Summer League. I don't know if that means anything, just I did see that a few days ago.
Yeah, I mean, my number 1 is also going to be Ben Simmons. Obviously, hasn't stepped on the court yet, and we'll have to see from him later. But not a strong draft class, not anybody that really wowed me enough from their rookie year to put them ahead of Ben Simmons. Obviously, he can play point guard at 6'10", and he's just a great all-around talent. He's got to improve his shooting like Brandon Ingram. That's really the only downfall to his game at the moment. We'll have to see how he continues to develop that and the future of him with the process and the Sixers.
Yeah, I think if he can get on the floor and the Sixers start getting all their pieces to finally come together, I think that the Sixers will be a pretty good team. And, I mean, we talked about it in the podcast that you should check out on YouTube. How Kyle Lowry might be coming there. So, definitely, the Sixers are a team to be looking at. But, coming up for the sports sermon, we're going to continue the What's Next series and the season previews in the NFL. But we're going to slow those down a little bit because now that the finals are over, we're going to go with our NBA mock draft as well as our as well as our big boards and really go head into the NBA draft. So we're going to slow down from what's next and go really big into the NBA draft. So that's exciting stuff. And we'll keep going with the NFL as we keep going closer and closer to their season.
Yeah, and if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit a like. And if you want to see the rest of our NBA What's Next series, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, a link in the description to follow us on Twitter. We will post on there every time we post a new video or a new article on our website. We'll be writing some more of those, especially around NBA draft time with some big boards and some mock drafts. So stay tuned for that. Hit the subscribe button and follow us on Twitter, and we will see you guys tomorrow.